The great throne hall of the Jailer Empire was silent, but it was not a peaceful silence. It was heavy, filled with fear and expectation. Tall crystal pillars rose toward the glowing ceiling, each one carved with the history of 1,000 conquered worlds. Alien nobles stood in perfect rows, their armor shining, their many eyes fixed on the center of the hall. At the highest seat sat Queen Zyrathalin, ruler of the Jailer, destroyer of enemies, mother of an empire that feared her more than death. Her long silver crest flowed down her back, and her sharp golden eyes showed no mercy. For over 300 cycles, she had never knelt to anyone. She had never doubted herself. Before her, guarded by elite soldiers, stood a human. He was small compared to the towering aliens around him. His hands were bound, his clothes torn from travel and battle, but his back was straight. His face showed exhaustion, but not fear. This alone caused whispers to spread through the court. "Human," the queen said, her voice cold and powerful, echoing through the hall. "You were found deep within royal space. You are accused of espionage, trespass, and contamination of pure bloodlines. Speak. Why should you live?" The human lifted his head. His eyes met hers. Many in the hall hissed in anger at such disrespect, but the queen raised one clawed hand, silencing them. "My name is Elia's ward," the human said calmly. "I did not come here as a spy. I came because I was called." Laughter burst from several nobles. Called? By whom? Humans were forbidden even to speak to jailer royalty. Before the queen could respond, movement came from the side of the hall. A lone figure stepped forward. Gasps rippled through the court. Princess Saraline, the queen's only daughter, removed her ceremonial veil. Her skin shimmered in soft blue light, and her eyes, once full of royal pride, now trembled with emotion. She walked past generals, past nobles, past tradition itself, until she stood between the human and the throne. "Mother," Saraline said, her voice shaking but clear. "He speaks the truth." The hall exploded into noise. "What is this madness? The princess defends a human. Has she been poisoned?" Queen Zyrathalin rose slowly from her throne. Her power pressed down on the room like gravity. "Explain yourself," the queen said. "Now." Saraline took a deep breath. Her hands clenched at her sides. "Years ago, during the border conflict near the Dead Stars, my ship was destroyed," she said. "I was stranded on a hostile world. Our forces believed me dead." Murmurs spread. The queen remembered that mission. The pain of thinking her daughter lost had never truly faded. "A human patrol found me," Saraline continued. "They could have killed me. Humans were our enemies then. Instead, he saved me." She turned and looked at Elias. "He protected me when his own people feared me. He shared his food. He treated my wounds. He spoke to me as if I were not a weapon or a trophy, but a person." The queen's eyes narrowed. "And this excuses treason." "No," Saraline said softly. "It explains love." The word struck the hall like a weapon. Several nobles shouted for her arrest. Guards tightened their grip on their weapons, but Saraline did not stop. "I chose him," she said. "Not as a captive, not as a mistake. I chose him freely, and from that choice life was born." The hall fell completely silent. The queen felt something strange twist inside her chest. "Life," she repeated. Saraline stepped aside. From behind a tall pillar, two small figures emerged. They were children. They walked slowly, holding each other's hands. Their forms were smaller than most jailer young, their skin a softer shade, their eyes bright and curious. One had faint human features in the face. The other shimmered with alien light. Both carried an energy that made the air itself hum. The queen froze. Her senses reached out before her mind could stop them. Royal blood, her blood. The force of it hit her like a storm. "My grandchildren," the queen whispered. Her legs weakened. Shock, something she had not felt in centuries, crashed through her. The nobles stared in disbelief as the most powerful ruler in the galaxy fell to her knees. Gasps echoed throughout the hall. "This is impossible," a high priest said. "Human and jailer biology cannot." And yet they stand before you, Saraline said firmly. The children looked up at the queen, unafraid. One of them stepped forward slightly. "Are you our grandmother?" the child asked in simple words. Something inside Queen Zyrathalin broke. All her life she had ruled through strength, through fear, through purity. She had ordered worlds burned for far less than this. Yet now, looking at the children, she felt no anger. She felt wonder and fear, because she could sense it clearly. These children were not weak. They were something new. The court erupted again, but this time the queen raised her hand, and the sound died instantly. "Take them," she said slowly, her voice trembling for the first time in history, "to the inner sanctum. No harm will come to them." She stood again, taller than before, but changed. She looked down at Elias. "You," she said, "human, you will remain alive for now." Elias bowed his head slightly, not in submission but respect. The queen turned her gaze to the gathered nobles. "This court is dismissed," she declared. "What has been revealed today will reshape this empire." As the guards escorted the children away, the queen watched them go, her mind racing. The galaxy believed humans were weak. The galaxy was wrong. And deep in her heart, Queen Zyrathalin knew one truth with terrifying clarity. The future had already been born. The inner sanctum of the palace was older than the empire itself. Its walls were smooth black stone, untouched by decoration, meant only for truth and judgment. Soft white light flowed from the ceiling like mist. Here, no lies could hide for long. The two children sat on a wide cushion near the center of the chamber. They stayed close to each other, calm but alert. They watched everything with curious eyes. Guards stood at a distance, tense and unsure. None of them had ever protected something so dangerous and so precious at the same time. Queen Zyrathalin stood before them, her hands clasped behind her back. She did not sit on a throne here. In this place, even queens stood as equals before truth. Princess Saraline stood beside her mother. Elias was kept farther back, unbound now but surrounded by silent watchers. The queen closed her eyes and extended her senses fully. Power flowed from her like invisible waves. She examined the children carefully. Their bodies, their minds, their energy. Everything she felt went against centuries of law and belief. They carried jailer royal blood, strong and clear, but woven through it was something else, something unpredictable. Something alive in a way she had never sensed before, human. The queen opened her eyes slowly. "They are stable," she said at last. "More than stable, they are balanced." A group of royal scientists stepped forward. Their faces showed confusion and fear. "Our scans confirm it," one of them said. "Their cells adapt constantly. When jailer energy spikes, human biology stabilizes it. When human emotion surges, alien structure contains it." Another scientist swallowed nervously. "They are not a flaw, they are an improvement." Those words sent a quiet shock through the chamber. Saraline's shoulders relaxed for the first time in years. The queen turned her gaze toward Elias. "You knew," she said. "You knew what they were." Elias nodded slowly. "I knew they were special. I didn't know how dangerous that truth would be here." The queen studied him closely. She expected arrogance, fear, or pride. She saw none of it, only concern for the children. "Why did you return?" she asked. "You could have hidden. Humans are good at disappearing." Elias looked toward the children before answering. "Because they deserve to know who they are," he said, "and because Saraline deserved to stop running." Silence filled the room again. The queen turned away and walked slowly toward a tall viewing window that showed the stars outside. Her empire stretched across those stars, built on control and separation. And now, two small lives threatened to change everything. "Do you know what you have done?" she asked quietly. "The council will demand their removal. Other empires will call this an abomination. Some will see them as weapons. Others will see them as an excuse for war." Saraline stepped forward. "I will not give them up," she said. "I will die first." The queen turned back sharply. "So would I," Elias said without hesitation. The children looked up at the raised voices. One of them stood and walked slowly toward the queen. Guards tensed, but the queen lifted her hand. The child reached her and placed a small hand against the queen's armor. "You're loud inside," the child said simply. "But you're not bad." The queen froze. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever sensed her inner conflict so clearly. Something deep inside her chest cracked open. She lowered herself and knelt again, this time by choice, until her eyes were level with the child's. "What is your name?" she asked softly. "I'm Lyra," the child said. "And this is Kale." Kale nodded, gripping Lyra's hand tightly. The queen nodded once. "You are under my protection," she said, "both of you." That promise carried the weight of the empire, but outside the sanctum the palace was already in motion. News spread like fire. Whispers turned into arguments. Arguments turned into demands. The High Council gathered in emergency session. Old enemies within the court found common ground in fear. "This changes everything," one counselor said. "If hybrids are allowed, purity laws collapse." "Worse," another added. "Other species will demand the same rights. Humans will gain influence." "Humans already spread too easily," a general growled. "They adapt, they infiltrate. This only proves they are dangerous." The high priest struck the floor with his staff. "The children must be removed," he declared, quietly, permanently. At that moment the chamber doors opened. Queen Xarathalin entered. The room fell silent instantly. Her gaze swept across them, sharp and cold. "You will speak carefully," she said. "You are discussing my blood." A counselor bowed stiffly. "Your Majesty, this is about the survival of the empire." "So is my decision," the queen replied. She stood tall, every inch the ruler they feared. "The children will live. They will be studied, not harmed. Any who act against them act against me." Murmurs rose again. "This will invite war," a general said. "Already our rivals watch for weakness." The queen's eyes burned. "Let them watch," she said. "They will learn." Far beyond the palace, hidden listening stations caught fragments of the news. Signals crossed the stars. An ancient rival empire received confirmation. Hybrid heirs, human blood, royal line compromised. Their leaders smiled. At last, an excuse. Back in the palace, night settled. The children slept in a secure chamber watched over by Saraline. Elias sat nearby, repairing a small toy from scraps, his hand steady. The queen observed from the shadows. She had ruled for centuries, but tonight she felt older than ever. She also felt hope and fear, because she understood something the council did not yet see. If these children lived, the galaxy would change. If they died, the empire would rot from within. As alarms began to whisper quietly through distant halls, one truth became clear. The future was no longer waiting. It was coming. The alarms did not scream. They whispered. Soft pulses of light moved along the palace corridors, alerting only those with the highest clearance. Queen Xarathalin stood alone in the strategy chamber when the message arrived. It appeared as a shifting symbol in the air, ancient and feared. An ultimatum. She did not need a translator. The Varkun coalition had spoken. They were one of the oldest powers in the galaxy, rivals of the Jailer Empire since before written history. They believed in strength without mercy, order without emotion. They had waited centuries for a moment like this. The message was simple: hand over the hybrid children or face correction. The queen closed her eyes for a long moment. When she opened them, there was no hesitation left. "Summon the council," she said, "and bring the human." The council chamber filled quickly. Generals, priests, nobles, scientists. Fear sat openly on their faces now. They all knew who the Varkun were. Entire species had vanished after refusing their demands. Queen Xarathalin stood at the center, unmoving. "They want the children," a general said. "They claim the hybrids threaten galactic stability." "They want control," Saraline said sharply. "Nothing more." The high priest struck the floor again. "This is why purity laws exist. If we give them up now, we preserve the empire." Elias stepped forward. Every eye turned toward him. "You give them the children," he said calmly, "and you won't preserve anything. You'll teach your people that blood matters more than loyalty. That fear decides your future." Murmurs rose. The queen watched him closely. "Humans talk boldly for a weak species," a noble sneered. Elias did not look at him. He looked at the queen. "Humans survive because we protect what we love," he said. "That's why we're still here." Silence followed. The queen turned slowly toward the council. "The children stay," she said. "Prepare defenses." Shock spread across the room. "You would risk war?" a general asked. "I would risk everything," the queen replied, "because some things are worth more than survival." The Varkun did not wait long. 3 days later, their fleet emerged from folded space near the outer systems. Massive warships, black and sharp, moving with perfect formation. Their message repeated across all channels. Final warning. Queen Xarathalin ordered evacuation of border worlds in full military readiness. But the jailer way of war was rigid, planned, predictable. The Varkun exploited this immediately. They struck supply lines, communication hubs, small defense platforms. The jailer fleets responded as they always had, following doctrine written centuries ago. They began to lose. In the command chamber, tension thickened the air. Tactical displays flickered red. "They are anticipating our formations," a commander said. "They know our responses." The queen's claws tightened. Elias stood quietly at the edge of the room, watching. "Your patterns are fixed," he said carefully. "They're using that against you," a general scoffed. "And humans know war better." Elias met his gaze. "Humans know how to lose," he said. "And keep fighting anyway." The queen turned toward him. "Speak," she commanded. Elias stepped closer to the display. "Stop meeting them head-on," he said. "Break your fleets into smaller units. Use decoys, retreat on purpose. Make them chase you into bad positions." "This is chaos," a commander protested. "Yes," Elias said, "that's the point." The queen studied the battle map. She had never fought like this, but she was losing by fighting the old way. "Do it," she said. The commanders hesitated. Then they obeyed. What followed confused the Varkun. Jailer ships scattered. Some retreated suddenly. Others powered down, appearing dead. When the Varkun advanced to finish them, hidden units struck from unexpected angles. Human tactics spread quickly through the fleet. Improvisation. Sacrifice, adaptation. Losses still came, but the advance slowed. On the palace world, the children watched the stars through reinforced glass. Lyra pressed her hand to the window. "They're scared," she said softly. Saraline looked down. "Who?" "Everyone," Kale answered. The children could feel the tension through the planet itself. In the command chamber, the queen watched as a human-style ambush destroyed a Varkun cruiser. For the first time, she felt something close to awe. "They fight without certainty," she murmured. "Yet they endure." Elias nodded. "Humans don't need to believe they'll win. We just need to believe it's wrong to stop." The Varkun grew angry. They changed tactics. Instead of attacking fleets, they aimed at symbols. A message appeared on every screen in the Empire. A single image. The palace world. A single line beneath it. "Deliver the children, or watch it burn." Panic spread. Riots broke out in distant systems. Some nobles openly called for surrender. The queen dismissed them all. She stood alone with Elias in the quiet chamber. "If they strike here," she said, "millions will die." Elias did not answer immediately. Then he said, "They won't." The queen turned sharply. "How can you be sure?" "Because they need you afraid," he said. "If they destroy this world, they lose leverage." She studied him. "You are calm," she said, "even now." "I'm terrified," Elias replied, "but fear doesn't decide my actions." That night the Varkun launched their final move. A massive fleet jumped directly toward the palace world. Defenses activated. The sky filled with light. The queen ordered all remaining ships into position. They were outnumbered. The children were brought to the inner shelter. Lyra held Kale tightly. "We're not supposed to be afraid," Kale said quietly. "I am," Lyra answered. but we're together. As the first shot struck the planetary shield, something unexpected happened. Human ships arrived, not warships, transports, old cruisers, mining vessels. They came from dozens of systems, humans, civilians, volunteers. They formed a living wall between the Varkun fleet and the planet. Elias stared at the display, stunned. "They came," he whispered. The Queen looked at him. "You did not call them." "No," he said, "but humans listen." A broadcast filled the channel. A human voice, shaking but strong. "We don't know these children," the voice said, "but we know what it means to be hunted. If you want them, you go through us." The Varkun hesitated. They had never faced this. An enemy willing to die without command, without certainty, without fear of loss. The first Varkun shot destroyed a human transport. More moved forward anyway. The Queen felt something heavy and sharp settle in her chest. She lowered herself slowly, not in defeat, in understanding. As the battle erupted, Queen Zyrathalin knelt. "My grandchildren," she whispered, her voice carrying through the chamber, "were born of humans. And the galaxy would never be the same again." The Varkun fleet hovered at the edge of the system, massive black ships stretching like shadows across the stars. Every sensor told the Queen what she already feared. They had no intention of leaving without the children. Their weapons were primed, their strategy calculated. They were patient but merciless. Inside the palace, Queen Zyrathalin paced the strategy chamber, her long silver crest swaying with every movement. Her eyes, golden and sharp, reflected the light of distant stars through the viewing windows. Beside her, Saraline and Elias watched quietly, each lost in their own thoughts. The children, Lyra and Kale, sat in the corner, quietly sketching patterns in the air with soft light. The Queen's mind raced. The Council had demanded surrender. She had refused. Now war was inevitable, and yet she could not bring herself to fear, not fully, because the children were alive, and alive meant hope. A general stepped forward, his armor polished, his face tight with tension. "Your Majesty, the fleet is ready. We can strike first, destroy their forward lines, and perhaps weaken their morale before they reach orbit." The Queen shook her head. "No, the Varkun are not fools. If we strike first, they will see it as aggression, and the children will be in even greater danger. We must fight smart, not fast." Elias leaned forward. "You don't have to fight like the past. You've already seen what happens when you adapt. Smaller units, unpredictable attacks. Let the humans help where they can." The Queen turned sharply to him. "You would trust humans with strategy." Elias did not hesitate. "I would trust them to protect what they love. That's more valuable than any weapon." The Queen studied him carefully, then nodded. "Then we include them fully. Let the hybrid children's strength guide us too. If they survive this, the Empire may survive because of them, not despite them." The first attack came quietly, without warning. Missiles streaked across space, striking the outer defense satellites. Explosions flashed like stars being born, then extinguished. The humans were ready. Their transports scattered, hiding between asteroids and abandoned stations. Small ships darted in unpredictable patterns, firing bursts that distracted the Varkun cruisers. Queen Zyrathalin watched from the viewing window. The battle was chaos, but it was not disorder. Humans had a strange way of fighting. They could improvise, adapt, and sacrifice without hesitation. They were not soldiers born of protocol. They were fighters born of heart. In the center of the palace, Lyra and Kale reached out, touching the surfaces of the inner sanctum. Energy pulsed from their hands, faint but growing. The Queen could feel it, a ripple of power that spread through the building, through the defenses, through the planet itself. It was subtle, but it made every weapon more accurate, every shield more resilient. The children were small, but their presence strengthened everyone around them. Saraline watched them in wonder. "They don't even realize what they're doing," she whispered. The Queen nodded. "And yet they are changing the battle." Hours passed, and the Varkun adapted. They were relentless, but the jailer and human forces continued to push back. using tactics the Varkun could not anticipate. Every time a human unit fell, another took its place. Every time a ship was destroyed, new improvisations emerged. The Queen's attention shifted from the stars to her own council. Several members looked pale, fearful, and indecisive. They were not used to human-style adaptability. They were used to control, rules, perfection. And perfection failed in chaos. "You are all frozen by fear," the Queen said sharply. "Watch and learn. The children are alive, the humans are alive, we are alive, that is all that matters." In the palace, the children began to glow brighter. Their energy was no longer subtle. Lyra reached out toward the shields, her hand brushing the force barriers. Light flowed from her fingers, weaving through the structure, strengthening the shields in ways the Queen had never imagined possible. Kale mirrored her, directing energy toward the planetary engines, making small but critical adjustments that increased speed and maneuverability. The generals watched in astonishment. "It is impossible," one whispered. "They are not even trained, and yet they are guiding our systems." The Queen smiled faintly, feeling pride and relief mixed with awe. "They are jailer," she said quietly. "And more than that, they are human. They are perfect in ways we cannot fully understand." The Varkun realized the battle was slipping from their control. They focused fire on the palace itself, targeting the inner sanctum. Explosions rocked the upper floors, and alarms wailed through the corridors. Guards rushed to protect the children, but the Queen placed her hand on Saraline's shoulder. "They are safe," she said calmly. "We will protect them." And they did. Elias directed human and jailer units with precision, leading small strike teams to intercept attacks, reroute power, and create distractions. His calmness inspired those around him. Soldiers who had once quaked in fear now moved with confidence, following his orders without hesitation. The battle stretched on for cycles, and slowly the Varkun began to retreat. Their ships, powerful though they were, could not adapt to the combination of jailer strength, human creativity, and the strange energy radiating from the children. On the palace world, Lyra and Kale stood together, holding hands. The glow of their power faded slightly as the immediate danger passed. They looked up at the stars, sensing the calm in the galaxy, if only temporary. Saraline knelt beside them. "You were amazing," she said. "You saved everyone." The children shrugged, smiling faintly. "We were just helping," Kale said. The Queen approached, her steps slow but deliberate. She studied the children carefully. Her knees had touched the ground before, but this was different. She felt respect, awe, and hope. "You are no longer just my grandchildren," she said. "You are symbols of something far greater. You are the bridge between humans and jailer. If you survive, the Empire will survive. If you fall, the galaxy may never recover from what we face." The Queen turned to Elias. "And you," she said, "have proven what humans truly are. Not weak, not disposable. You are dangerous in the most valuable way. You fight with heart, with loyalty, with unyielding courage." Elias bowed slightly. "We survive because we care. That is all." The Queen's eyes glimmered with emotion she had long suppressed. "And yet caring is what makes the difference. I see it now." Outside, the stars burned bright with battle. The Varkun retreating fleet left behind wreckage and warning signals. The galaxy had seen the first demonstration of true human power, unarmed by technology alone, unbound by fear, guided only by heart and determination. The council remained silent, their minds struggling to comprehend what had just happened. Generals, scientists, and priests all realized one truth: survival was no longer decided by pure strength, rules, or control. It was decided by adaptability, empathy, and courage. The Queen returned to the inner sanctum, kneeling before her grandchildren again. She placed a gentle hand on Lyra's head. "You will grow," she said, "and one day your choices will shape the Empire. But know this, your very existence has already changed everything." Kale looked up at her, eyes wide. "We want to help," he said simply. "You already are," the queen replied. "More than you know." As the stars calmed and the alarms faded, the queen reflected on the future. She had always believed that the empire was invincible because of its power. Now she knew it was invincible because of its people, and because of the children who represented the bond between two worlds. Elias stood quietly in the corner, watching the queen and her grandchildren. "They are the reason we survived," he whispered to Caroline. "Yes," she said softly, "and they will be the reason we thrive." The queen rose slowly, her golden eyes scanning the city below. The palace had survived, the children were safe, and the first wave of the Varkun was retreating. But the galaxy was watching. Other powers would see the hybrid children, see humans and jailer working together, and they would come with new threats. Still, the queen felt something she had not felt in centuries: certainty. The children had shown that survival was not just about strength. It was about courage, love, and unity. She turned to Caroline and Elias. "Prepare the empire for what is to come," she said. "We will not hide these children. They are our strength, our future, and we will face anyone who challenges them." Lyra and Kale held hands again, their small energy shimmering faintly in the quiet room. They had survived their first battle, guided the Empire's defenses, and touched the hearts of one of the most powerful rulers in the galaxy. The queen knelt one last time before them, whispering, "You are my blood, my grandchildren, and from you a new empire will rise." Outside, the stars waited, full of danger and possibility. The galaxy had seen the first spark of change, and nothing would ever be the same. Queen Zarathalin finally straightened, her silver crest flowing behind her. She looked to the future, knowing that the next challenges would be greater than anything she had faced, but also knowing that the greatest power in the galaxy was no longer measured by weapons alone. It was measured by heart, by courage, by humans, and by the children born of both worlds who would one day lead the stars, and the Empire would follow them. The galaxy was quiet, but it was a calm that felt fragile, like the moment before a storm breaks. The Varkun had retreated for now, their fleet shattered and humiliated by a combination of human tactics, jailer strength, and the mysterious energy radiating from the hybrid children. But Queen Zarathalin knew the peace would not last. Others were watching, waiting for a chance to strike. In the palace, life moved differently now. Guards still patrolled the corridors, but the atmosphere was lighter. Servants and advisors whispered, not in fear, but in awe of what had been achieved. Humans were no longer considered weak or insignificant. They had proven their worth, not through firepower, but through heart, courage, and loyalty. Caroline walked through the halls, holding Lyra and Kale by the hand. The children were growing quickly, both in strength and in understanding. Every day they discovered something new about themselves, their abilities, and the strange bond that connected them to the Empire. They were no longer just children, they were symbols of hope. "Do you think they will come back?" Kale asked quietly as they walked through the gardens. Caroline looked up at the twin suns shining over the palace city. "They may try," she said, "but we are ready. We will protect you no matter what." Lyra squeezed her brother's hand. "I don't want anyone to hurt anyone," she said. "Not the humans, not the jailer, not anyone." Caroline smiled. "Then you already understand the most important lesson of being alive. Protecting those you love is the greatest strength of all." In the council chamber, the queen met with her generals and advisors. The human soldiers who had fought alongside jailer forces were now included in strategy sessions. They were not only allies, they were teachers, showing how adaptability and innovation could change the course of battle. The queen watched them with a mixture of pride and curiosity. "You've changed everything," a senior general admitted quietly. "I never believed humans could lead as we do." "They lead differently," the queen said. "They lead with heart, and that is why they survived when we almost did not." Elias stood nearby, quiet but observant. The queen approached him. "You have done more than I expected," she said. "Not because of strength, but because of your example. Elias shook his head. Humans don't fight to prove themselves. We fight because we have to protect what matters. That is the difference. The queen studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Then teach me, she said. Teach me how to fight that way. As the days passed, word of the hybrid children spread across the galaxy. Other species reached out with curiosity and some with caution. They had heard of humans, once considered weak. They had heard of the children born of a human and a jailer princess, and they were intrigued. Some envoys came in peace, offering trade and knowledge. Others came with hidden threats, testing the strength of the new alliance. Through it all, the children grew more confident. Lyra learned to control her energy, focusing it to heal minor injuries or stabilize machinery. Kale learned to sense movement, guiding ships through dangerous areas with precision that surprised even the most experienced pilots. Together, they were small but unstoppable, a new form of life that combined the best of two worlds. One evening, the queen took them to the highest tower of the palace, where the view stretched across the city and the stars beyond. She knelt before them, looking directly into their eyes. "You are no longer just children of two worlds," she said. "You are the beginning of something new, something that will shape the future of this empire and beyond. You carry the legacy of your parents and mine, but also something more: courage, heart, unity." Lyra tilted her head. "Does that mean we have to fight more battles?" "Not necessarily," the queen replied. "But you must be ready. The galaxy will test you. Others may fear you or want to challenge you, but if you remember what you are, you will never be defeated." Kale's eyes shone with determination. "We'll be ready," he said. "We'll protect everyone." The queen smiled, rising slowly to her full height. She looked over the city below, at humans and jailer moving together, rebuilding and preparing for the future. She felt a surge of hope that had been absent for centuries. The empire was not just surviving, it was growing stronger because it had learned to embrace more than just power. A message arrived in the palace, carried by a fleet of fast couriers. The sender was one of the neighboring empires, previously neutral. They requested a meeting, curious about the hybrid children and the sudden change in jailer strategy. The queen studied the message carefully. "They want to see what we have created," she said. "They may come as allies or as threats. Either way, we will show them strength." Elias nodded. "They will see what humans and jailer can do together. They may fear it, but they will respect it." In the gardens, the children watched a group of human soldiers training with young jailer cadets. Lyra giggled as Kale tried to copy a complicated movement, falling over repeatedly. The soldiers laughed with him, teaching him to balance, to move with precision. It was a small, simple moment, but it was more than training. It was unity. The queen watched them from a distance, her heart swelling with pride. She had ruled for centuries, feared by millions, respected by all. But this was different. This was hope born of courage, love, and understanding. Days turned into weeks, and the empire began to flourish in unexpected ways. Humans and jailer shared knowledge, combining technology with adaptability. Trade routes opened, new alliances formed. The children were no longer just symbols. They were active participants, learning diplomacy, strategy, and leadership under the careful guidance of their mother, Saraline, and their grandfather, the queen. One night the queen and Elias stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. The lights of distant fleets shimmered far away, and the galaxy seemed calm for the first time in many cycles. "You have changed this empire," the queen said softly. Elias shook his head. "We just reminded it of something it forgot. Strength is not enough. Survival is not enough. It is what you do with the people you care about that matters." The queen studied him carefully, then nodded. "I understand now. The future will not be defined by power alone. It will be defined by heart, by courage, by unity." The children came running onto the deck, their laughter echoing in the quiet night. Lyra held a small glowing orb in her hand, a manifestation of her energy, and Kale followed, guiding a small drone he had fixed using both jailer technology and human ingenuity. "Look what we made," Lyra said, holding it up for the Queen and Elias to see. The Queen smiled, kneeling to their level. "It is wonderful," she said, "just like you." Kale looked at his grandmother seriously. "Do you think we can make the galaxy better?" The Queen took a deep breath, resting her hand on his shoulder. "You already have. And as long as you live, you will continue to do so. The galaxy will follow you because you remind everyone what is truly important." Saraline stepped forward, smiling proudly at her children. "They are strong," she said, "not just in power but in heart." The Queen rose, her eyes scanning the horizon. Ships moved in formation below, humans and jailer working together to rebuild and strengthen the Empire. The galaxy would watch and some would challenge them. But now, no one could deny the strength of unity. The Queen turned to Elias. "You will stay," she said, "not as a subject but as an equal. Your people have earned that respect, and so have you." Elias nodded, quietly humbled. "I am honored," he said. The children leaned on their mother, looking up at the stars, feeling the weight and wonder of their place in the galaxy. They had survived battles, shaped the future, and proven that even the smallest lives could hold the greatest power. Queen Zyrathalan took a deep breath. For centuries, she had believed the galaxy could be ruled by strength, fear, and perfection. But now she knew the truth. It was not rulers, not armies, not rules. It was the people, the heart, and the courage to protect what mattered most. And her grandchildren had shown her that. The stars stretched endlessly before them, full of unknown dangers and opportunities. But the Queen did not fear the future. She knew the children would face it with courage, and the Empire would rise with them. The first step of a new era had begun. One where humans and jailer fought together, thrived together, and grew together. One where the galaxy would never forget the lesson of courage, unity, and love. And as the twin suns set behind the palace towers, the Queen whispered to herself, softly but with conviction, "The future of the galaxy is not born of one race. It is born of courage, and it begins with these children." Lyra and Kale laughed, holding hands and running down the deck, their energy bright against the dimming sky. The Queen watched them go, and for the first time in centuries, she allowed herself to hope, not just for the Empire but for the entire galaxy. Elias stood at her side, watching silently, understanding that something had changed forever. Humans were no longer just visitors in this galaxy. They were part of its destiny. And through these children, they had forged a path that would shape every star, every planet, and every life for generations to come. Queen Zyrathalan looked out at the stars again, her golden eyes glimmering with purpose. She knew challenges would come, enemies would rise, and darkness would test them all. But she also knew that with heart, courage, and unity, the impossible could become reality. And for the first time, she smiled, not as a ruler of fear, but as a grandmother of hope. The galaxy would follow them. The empire would grow stronger, and the children born of two worlds would lead the stars into a future unlike any ever seen before. The age of courage had begun, and nothing, not even the shadows of war, could stop it.